Have you ever been interested in jumping in the sea when it's freezing cold? Have you ever seen people jump in the sea and thought, I'd like to do that one day, and I'm a bit scared? Well, after this conversation, you will know a lot more about sea dipping, because this week I have the co-founder of Dawn Stalkers, Grant, speaking to me. Oh, it is a beauty of a conversation. And do you know what I'm loving about my podcast at the moment? Is that I'm starting to relax. I'm starting to have a conversation and not be so structured around my questions and asking different questions. And it's a bit messy. And there's a bit more ums and ahs. And I'm just getting into the groove of it. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And if you learn lots from this, please send it on to someone else. Let's get more people listening to Love Shortage. Let's get more people sharing the love in the world. I hope you enjoy this conversation. We start to get some information from Grant on how I'd introduce him. Because, like me, he is one of them people that has lots of projects and does lots of things, wears many hats. So we start from there. I hope you enjoy this conversation.
How would you introduce me?
I've always struggled with saying what I do and all that malarkey. So what would be on your LinkedIn bio? What would I say?
So we're going into a LinkedIn rabbit hole to start with, because I don't know how to do LinkedIn, because LinkedIn seemingly kind of pigeonholes you into a job. And this is what I do. And I don't do one thing. So I'm sat in my office at my day job, I call it. It is the thing that pays my mortgage. So that is a sign company. So my LinkedIn, which I don't use, but I am on, talks about Signs Express, which is the business I work at. And it's the thing, as I said, it pays the mortgage, and it's the thing I do sometimes during the day, at least, 3 days a week, I think. That's it. Maybe it should be more, but I do like to project. I spend all my time at the beach. But then how do you have a kind of multifaceted expression of what you are on LinkedIn? Because I can't talk about, or at least it would probably be weird if I started talking about Dawn Stalkers when it says I work at Signs Express, or I don't know why I don't like it. I don't like a lot of things if I get pigeonholed.
I think when you've got, I think the word is portfolio career. When you have a portfolio career,
is that? Wow.
Someone told me it's because I have one too. And when you have one of them, it's not great for people because they just want one thing. So it's like, that's why I've always been really envious of people that say I'm a plumber. It's like, boom.
Yeah, but I totally get it, because we want to absorb information in a really simple way and go, oh, I get that now. Why I don't go on LinkedIn. So, And if you look at my personal Instagram profile, is it? So that bio. I mean, I think it just says Dawn Stalker. So I think we've got to get into it to figure out what I am not. Someone gave me a book called Be More Pirate, and I think it was I sort of started swimming a little bit. It was Lisa from Pinkspiration. She's a wild child, and the book's pink, so I think maybe that's why she had it. But she said you might like this, and that's my favorite business stroke personality typing book. Yeah, I think maybe that's what should be in my bio. So if not
pirate,
child, be more pirate.
Okay.
It's just,
I'll put pirate down then. There we are. Right, brilliant. Okay, so we're going to kick off. We're going to start at the beginning.
We hadn't already started. Okay, cool.
Well, we have
all
started.
That bit might be cut out.
I'll normally chop and change. I can edit.
Who will know?
Yeah. Who taught you how to love?
As I said earlier, you sent me those questions. I looked and went, wow, those are deep, and they're quite hard. And what I did was left it in my email thinking, I'll review that at some point. And did I fuck? But I did open them at the seafront this morning. So it was pre-sunrise. Sunrise is quite late. We're in October, right? Yeah. And so I asked a couple of people, and people said some really deep, expansive answers. I think so. Immediately, what comes to mind is my mum. And I wonder. So, thank you, Cat Racing, for this. But she said maybe it's intrinsically something that's internal to us as a species or as a human. And there's programming, or there's things that we learn from a young age. And I think the care and that kind of nurture, which I associate with love, was my mum, and probably my grandma as well. And I really noticed that female side, that it was it. Is it something that occurs to me, or that the feminine is what strikes me as how I would put words to love.
So love is a lady for you?
No. I did. I just said that, didn't I? And I don't. Now you put it like that. Not always, but I think if I was to create a personal figure around it, it probably would be a motherly figure, or my mum. She's lush. She does love a lot.
Yeah. Big heart.
She's local to me. I spoke to her just on the way to the office, to this podcast. I think it's I've lost even the thought. I'm sort of lost in this emotional kind of big hug.
I think I read it somewhere, or maybe watched it somewhere, and they said about no one is going to be as interested in your life as your mother. And do you know that sort of sense of, and I get, like, if anything's going on for me, I'll phone my mother and I'll be like, you never guess what, and sort of share that. And there's that level of love, isn't it, that really, that interest in what you do. Do you share a lot with your mum?
I do share, but I've been previously, we're going to say that I've been quite, I wouldn't say closed off, but I think I've been very careful about how and who I share with, and compartmentalize different parts of myself. And I'm guessing people would say I don't always let them in. And I guess, so I notice it if I use my parents as the archetypal love, and they're where I was birthed from. My dad is quite protective, and actually he's been the provider in terms of making sure everyone is okay and cared for. If you look at energy and the money and those sorts of things, and my mum was the abundant, almost the unconditional love. And I sat through an amazing talk at summer camp this year about unconditional love, delivered by you. And it was beautiful and magic.
Thank you. It was a magical time, I've got to say. Sometimes you do sessions and you're just like, everyone in this room needs to be here and needs to hear this information, including me. It felt like a real lovely space, and people were really open, which was lovely. Yeah, it was.
And I noticed during that session, I spent a lot of time with my daughter. So it's I guess that cyclical nature is where I went, is how would I like to be or aspire to be for Lola?
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because if I was still doing this podcast and I speak to Lola in 15, 20 years, that question, who taught you how to love, that could be you, which is a nice thing. It's a nice thing.
And then I think we get ongoingly taught by our partners, by our friends, so wives, husbands, whatever you want to call them. But that's a love that you have to work for, and it's worth it. And it can be interesting. It can be difficult.
It's not easy to love. Especially unconditionally.
And we do have a tendency to make everything really complicated and hard. Maybe it is easy. It's just really hard to see the trees for the woods sometimes. And we put so many things in the way.
It's me, George. I'm popping in to say hello. We went down many rabbit holes, so I've just saved you some time. I'm just coming in to tell you about my newsletter. So, the thing is with the newsletter, I have unsubscribed from many. They can be dull, they can be boring, but I am told by the people that read my newsletter that it's like a love letter that ends up in their inbox every Wednesday, and it always makes them smile. So if you would like something to make you smile on a Wednesday, subscribe to my newsletter. You can do that by going on my link tree and subscribing to the newsletter, or I'm going to put the link in the show notes. So we're going back over to Grant. I have just asked him what are his loves. I hope you're enjoying this conversation. Thank you.
So it's what are my loves? I think people and connection. I really struggle to take apart the contribution and the feedback loop that gives. I really like sparking joy in people. It can be super obvious, or it can be really, really like not, but the kind of knowing of that. And I like, it almost sounds selfish, but I don't quite know how to take them apart. It's like, I can't. So unconditional is quite an interesting word for me. 'Cause like, is it ever absolutely unconditional? And then, but is it unconditional because you can be free with it, and then it comes back anyway? And that's the beauty of the yin and the yang, or the out and the back in. It's contribution, people, the joy of partnership, and that evolving kind of tapestry of what life becomes. I think also it's the experiences. Like, there's so many things you can choose, and we each have this kind of way of being that allows us to do the things that hopefully do the things that we want to do. And that's magic. And love is there a difference? I don't know anymore. Joy, similar. It's all kind of, I know we can separate them as words, but I think they all sit in the same sphere, same place. Maybe it's soul.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answered the question at all, but
it luckily, Grant, it's not a test, so it's good. I'm not taking.
I know, but I would like marks at the end, though, please. That's.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting about that label of emotion, isn't it? Joy, connection, and if you think of love, from these conversations I've been having with people, love is definitely a verb, and it's something that is an action, is a doing, is something that is showing up in lots of different areas, and it's a doing word.
See, that's interesting. Yeah, because joy and magic aren't. Is love the doing of being joyful and magic? Maybe.
They're like the petrol, is it?
Yeah, I'd take that.
Yeah, that. Yeah, because I don't know. If you think of, say, you do something with love, when you cook a beautiful meal and you know that it's been cooked with love and people taste it, that will spark joy, that will create connection where everyone's around a table eating a meal. And I don't know, I think there's something to be said around they are the byproduct of love. Them emotions.
Yeah, and then I can see, I don't particularly like the word practice, and I'm going to say it in that way, practice, because it just sounds really pious, and it's like it's hard, and it's something I've got to achieve, and it's like, it's something that's over there because I don't have this practice yet, and they do, and it's like in a world of comparison. But I realized that the word practice literally is just, practice at something, and that's fun and easy, and you don't have to have an outcome that's already prescribed because it's just playing.
I was about to say
it's a practice. Playing. Yeah, but it took me it took me ages. It took me until about 43, and I do like the fact that is also the answer to the universe and everything. And it's, what was it, 42? Who knows? 42 is when I started swimming, and I think everything changed at that point. So And I started to realize that practice was just playing and fun and not this really sort of difficult thing to achieve, because I had to have a practice that sounds so, sort of hard and dense and difficult.
There's a discipline about practice, isn't there?
But see, I don't like discipline. Yeah. You got it.
Yeah. Like if I think of practice, I think of the violin, or like practicing on an instrument or something. But if I'd say my yoga practice, for example, it's playing, really.
Yeah.
It's my yoga play.
It's and if you said I have a yoga practice, that's for me, that suddenly sounds quite different. Oh, I practice yoga. That's fun. I have a yoga practice. It sounds so and I know I'm adding intention to the way I say it, inflection as well, but it sounds really hard and like, oh yes, you do that thing every day. As it turns out, I do a thing every day though, which is quite funny, and people are like, oh, you have a practice. I'm like, yeah, I just get up and then I end up at the sea and I'm like, oh right, I've got here again, I'm gonna get in, okay. And other people come and it's fun.
How many people come to Dawn Stalkers?
We've had the ebb and flow. That's a nice tidal reference there. I think right now, when we're October 2024, we're generally 25 to 30 people every day. And last year, I think we were probably more like 40 every day, and we dropped off a little bit. There's people get concerned about water quality and things get in the way, and if they've ticked it off now, they've done Dawn Stalkers, now they've gone to doing the next thing. I don't know what it is. Maybe
yeah.
Is there some kind of, there's probably something new. Oh, there's all these gyms popping up with contrast therapy. Perhaps everyone's doing contrast therapy at Dawn now. I don't know.
And or just in them ice baths in their house.
Yeah. Which is, I'm super impressed with people that do that. And there's something around accountability, because I think you can be accountable to yourself for so long. Then you need to find ways to keep yourself accountable. And that'll either be by talking about it, maybe on social media, or by having other people to do it with, because you don't know who you're being accountable for every day. So I know there's days where I absolutely don't want to get up and go to the sea, but I have fear of missing out. Or I have people that I know will miss me if I don't go. And that's really nice. And then I want to go. And then I turn up at the sea and go, oh, that was worth it. Thanks.
It's always going to be worth it. If I lived near, I would try it. I'm terrified of cold water, and I've never, ever done it. Ever. Oh. I know.
Well, you are invited. So that's the first point. Yes.
Yeah.
You'd be welcome.
Yeah. Have you ever had to bar anyone or ban anyone?
I think so. We have a WhatsApp group, which is quite large now. But there's some rules, because it turns out while I don't like rules, I like enforcing the rules and being in control. Funny that. So is it Tad from Marketing for Hippies, who we also met at summer camp? I think he called it not a democratic dictatorship, but it was something along those lines. It's like, how do we make dictator sound nice? And I was like, oh, that's me. Oh.
Well, I suppose it's on a serious level. This is a community that you have built. And
now I'm going to catch you there.
Oh.
You can't build a community. Well, you can just tend to it and allow it to grow.
Totally, yeah. It did. Even when I was saying that, I was like, that's not the right words, because
it's okay. I'm only calling you. Yeah, I'm only calling you out. Because some people say, yeah, but look at the community you built. And I'm like, well, I just showed up and I maybe helped create the kind of the shape and form of it. But I'm not Dawn Stalkers to the person who invited you to come. If I did invite you, and you are yet to take up that invitation, but you're invited, Georgina. But it's kind of it's a self-feeding thing that it's whoever brought you for the first time becomes the person who was that sort of, I guess, seed to being part of community. And then the space that's created by the people who are there on a daily basis is what forms that.
Like a religion.
We are a cult. It has been the similarities to religion have, and I think with good reason. I think one of the things that we're missing as a society in the Western world and in UK culture and perhaps European culture is that the things that can be associated with religion that we don't practice, that words again, that we singing, gathering, seeing something that's a higher power than ourselves. I mean, watching the sun come up over the sea is pretty spiritual, and I think spirituality is a great word, because religion has it creates something for many people that, like, no, I'm not religious, and I think you can be spiritual and believe in something greater than yourself that doesn't necessarily have to fall into one of the quote unquote religions.
Yeah, it's interesting. So going back to dawn stalkers and going back to the community of dawn stalkers and what it gives you, it was really interesting. I'm like, would it, for someone that isn't really into discipline, would it be as successful, use that word successful, without that level?
I'll try and avoid it, but yeah. Over there.
Without you showing up every day.
I don't know, because I only have the experience that I have in this time. It would be different for sure. I think we were very much, and I was very much in right place, right time. So Penarth has a beautiful sunrise aspect that we see more than you might think, being in South Wales in the UK. I don't know. I sometimes think it's something to do with the geography that doesn't tend to rain as much as it seems to in the rest of the day, first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. That might just be me being optimistic. Yeah, so we have this great aspect. So you see all year round the sunrise is almost over the sea. I mean, there is Weston-super-Mare in Bristol. There's a little bit of land there, but it effectively on the horizon sea. Mm-hmm. It turns out there's a whole load of science that suggests why seeing low axis sunlight first thing in the morning helps our circadian rhythms and biorhythms and help support our production of dopamine, one of the happy hormones or neurotransmitters maybe is about. And then cold water releases some of those. You have community or other people sharing a kind of a commonality, which, literally we strip down on the beach, but you're also stripping back the layers of kind of the things we put in the way to not be connected. So all of those things are, again, it's sort of a self-fulfilling or expanding spiral of wonderment that happens on a daily basis. And I'm quite habitual, as it turns out. This week, it was last Friday, a business networking group I go to, which is really early in the morning and happens every Friday, was 18, and I was a founder member. So I've been doing something first thing in the morning on a Friday every day. We said it works out, I think it's about 200 months, 900 weeks.
Wow.
So there was already this sort of, that may be quite unusual for some people. So I'm quite consistent, as it turns out. And I, as I said, I don't like structure, but as it happens, doing something every day as a habit is much easier than trying to do it every, I'll do it on Sunday this week. So having that kind of I guess, mindset or way of being, I guess showing up every day did help. And having other people who did that too. And there are, over the almost 4 years, there's been various people who've been very consistent for periods of time. And I think that by doing it daily, it's removed one of the barriers for people. So, if you can't come this Friday, well, you could come Saturday, or you could come Sunday, or it might be Monday. And but there's not that, well, I can't do it this week. Oh, I can't go next week, and then falling out of the habit. It's there every day, should you choose to show up.
It's really interesting what Grant is saying about consistency and about showing up and about patterns of behaviour. And is something easier to do daily, or is something harder to do when it's once or twice a week? It's really got me going on how I thought I wasn't disciplined, but I am disciplined in some areas of my life. And that might be the case for you. And what he was saying about the sea and the impact of seeing the sunrise. And it's like, the only time I see the sunrise is in Ibiza. That's only a couple of times, or maybe once a year. So maybe sunrises and sunsets are in my future. What about yours? Let's go back to the conversation.
Before we go on to the next question, I really want to ask this question because I've thought about it myself. If someone rocks up to Penarth and is never done that before, do you have, like, from a safeguarding issue? Because I know that you can't, because Charlotte Lewis, who sometimes goes in the sea with you, she said the first time she did it, not with you, she did it somewhere else, and she was a proper ego about it and jumped in, and she thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. And is there someone that goes, do you know, this is the way you do this in a safe way? Because I guess there is an element of not risk, but it is a shock.
Yeah. Cold water's not for everyone. And there are some contraindications, and we love contraindications. There's some reasons why you might choose not to do it, or to be very careful about it. And for most people, it's quite accessible as a thing to do. It works for all ages, and all, I guess, to some extent, all body types. And being in a body of water for most of us makes us feel quite good. So it's safeguarding. We're careful not to be too prescriptive. Like, we don't get in together. We are a gathering of kind of like-minded individuals who choose to do something at a certain time of day. There is some information on the website and linked on Instagram to sort of tell people what they might choose to do, and we definitely look to do it. Well, go in it as two of you, because, as you said, the bravado, and even our platform has quite a lot of bravado. It's quite piratey, or however you want to create that. And there's a lot of bullshit. Like, the way we present ourselves, cold water shock's a real thing, and it's quite easy to simulate. I think, and the percentage is really high, that you can, even in people who are habituated, you can recreate cold water shock with the right conditions, in like 60% of people, I think. And cold water shock is disorientation, or inhale of air with your head under the water. So don't dive in.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go in too slowly, because if you stand around like up to your knees for half an hour and then trying to get in, you've cooled your blood quite a bit before you've actually had the experience of the sort of immerse up to your neckline. So not too slowly, but also, don't dive in. So I think don't be scared of cold water shock, but have a healthy understanding of what it means and how you could avoid it. And
don't be a dick.
Yeah, always.
I'm keen to ask you this question, only from I'm really curious what your answer is going to be, because at the beginning of our conversation, you talked about there's a distance that you sort of have with some people or with people. And I'm keen to know what your self-love is like. So how loving are you to yourself?
3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have even known how to answer this question. And perhaps I still don't. I think I'm not good enough has been something that has played out in the way I behave, the choices I've made, for most of my adult life. And I did some work. Landmark helped me sort of bring out that specific piece. And I remember asking my mum, where do you see that sort of originating from? Because my memory's not that good. She talked about something specific where at a certain time of life, and it was quite young, I kind of went from being this kind of quite happy, connected, very kind of outgoing to being more reserved. And I guess those formative childhood experiences, made that. Don't show them, stay distanced, or create those decisions. How I do it now is one of help disband that feeling of I'm not good enough, and it still obviously it keeps re-showing itself, and you do the work and you disappear it for a bit, and then it comes back in a different way or on a slightly bigger. You expand a little bit, and it's the next layer, and there's always more things to do. But I think seeking things that give me joy is how I do self-love, and I try and say that without giggling because I'm still a child. So we'll add the giggling. I remember being in a coaching space and someone asking, when did you last experience joy? And I couldn't believe the answers that came from other people, because mine was this morning. And there were people who couldn't remember, and maybe that's a gift I have. I start talks with I was born sunny side up, because just that sort of happiness and joy almost feels like a core of my being, and I couldn't. It makes no sense to me that people don't experience that on a daily basis. So I think, Dawnstalkers is a testament to that. Is like, how do we do things that improve our state of being on a daily basis that are relatively free? I appreciate we're in a privileged position, being in maybe the Northern Hemisphere, being in the UK, living in Penarth, a really nice place. So you have there's a few things that are in place that allow that to happen, but effectively it's something you can choose to do on a daily basis that doesn't really cost anything. And I'd like to spread more of that. And in turn, that it gives me a sense of purpose. It gives me a sense of longevity and joy, which I think I experience as self-love.
Yeah. So going back to the not enoughness, that is something that I guess the script, the voice script, the internal dialogue around that. I guess what I'm hearing is you increase your levels of joy, and that little bit of internal dialogue of I'm not good enough is quietened. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so. And I guess we all do this at different ages, and maybe I was just slow, but kind of the learning to accept yourself and realizing that you are just the way you are, and that's okay, and that's good enough, and we all have something to give and to share, and we can make up all of these stories about why we shouldn't. So I can talk about the fact that, I don't come from a broken home. My parents are still alive. I live in a really privileged place. I've had a lot of privilege as a child and as an adult, and I've been really lucky. And, I have a family and all of those things, and then make up the reason why I have nothing of value to tell anyone because I'm so fucking privileged. And that is a lie, and that's a trap that will have you stuck. And until you unravel that, and it might take personal development, it might take a really interesting experience in the woods on ayahuasca, it might be a festival. But I'm really fortunate that I discovered that at 42. And if you discover it earlier, really well done. And I wouldn't change the formative experiences I've had for anything, because it's what created me as I am now. And I think going on that journey of self-discovery is a value and should be taught at school, because if we're just sent on a journey to be churned out, suitable for doing a job that then we exchange time for money for, and have enough money to put a roof over our head, that's pretty boring.
Yes, it's not very inspirational, is it?
Fuck no.
No, true words. Okay, good. Yeah, self-acceptance. That is something that is the goals. They're always changing, self-acceptance, because we are a different self every year. So it's like, am I willing to accept this version of me? Especially aging, we are physically, we look different. Wisdom, we are ever changing. So yeah, that sort of meeting yourself every day and going, "You're all right. You are. You're okay." Yeah. I like you.
That's it. As you said, it's a practice. It's a fucking word, practice. But those self-affirmations and what we create in language and what we actually say out loud to ourselves has an effect, and you can feel really stupid doing it, and you can think it won't make a difference, but over time those things are so important. And can make literally the world of difference, because we are all the way we are, and there's pretty much no fucking changing it. Like, you can go on a journey and learn things, and you can create new habits and all of those things, but you can change your thinking in a second just by choosing and accepting. It's like, fuck, I'm only going to look the way I look now because this is the way I look, and I could go and have a new haircut, but it's not going to make much difference. I'm still going to be pretty much intrinsically the person that I've created over 46 years, and that's the way it is. And there's no point fucking trying to worry about comparison over here, that until I'm that, I can't do this, because again, it's another trap that we create in, maybe as a result of marketing or trying to sell stuff, or comparison is the thief of joy.
Totally. And it's very convenient for you to hate yourself for you to buy stuff to try and fill this void. And that brings me on to my next question, really. In the podcast is about the love shortage in the world. So I pick guests that I feel are filling the love shortage. So with Dawn Stalkers, putting more love into the world. You are,
warm and fuzzy feelings you've created for me that I just thought about and going, warm and fuzzy. It's putting more love into the world, and that's why I pick the guests that I pick. So where do you feel there is a love shortage, and how do you think we could fix it? Go back to, I opened these questions this morning, stood on the seafront, and I had some varying answers, one of which is that we all experience a love shortage. And I think there was a really specific word in that line, is all experience. And our experience is based on our perception and thinking. And I wonder, is there actually a love shortage, or is there just withholding for protection? And the more people that see joy every day, or allow themselves to experience life with a perception of freedom, I think the more love spreads, and perhaps it's for all of us on a day-to-day basis, just to allow that little bit more connection. And with rose-tinted glasses, the world will be a better place.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Grant. I gotta say, it's up there with one of my favourite answers, because just to sort of mirror that back to you, is it there? Is it all there? It's just we are so armoured up. We're so stressed and in our own heads, and our hearts are closed. Are we just not willing to open? Is there, and that experience, that collective experience, whether that is a singing group or whether that's a cold water swimming group or whatever that is, there's an opening. There's an opening of letting something in. And yeah, if I think of my own life, how many times am I opening myself up to love? That's got me thinking.
You've got me thinking. And yeah, the armor's there for a reason, and it's there to protect us. And, we're built to see danger and shut down and protect ourselves, but that's maybe not serving us in the best way, and being open to doing it in a different way. But, yeah.
And I guess the fixing of it is finding more opportunities for joy, more opportunities for opening. Is this going to blow my heart apart? Yeah, I think there's something
maybe
around.
Yeah, seeing the magic and going, okay, well, where can I let that in? Let the light in. Yeah.
I love that. It has made me feel all happy, and now I'm thinking of potential social media content that I can write about it. I'm like, oh, amazing. We've come to the end. We've just got our last question. We've only got the last question now. And this question is, I think it's one of my faves. When has love conquered all in your life?
When has love conquered all? I think I can see the unconditional love piece. Yeah, and it occurs like it's in the space of forgiveness and acceptance. And I think I'm forever surprised and not always humbled, sometimes humbled, how people can accept and connect and continue to contribute, even in extreme adversity, even in times of hardship. And I think that's love conquering all. And I aspire to be that way for myself in future, because I think there's so many people who are just unbelievable in that space.
Forgiveness and acceptance. Yeah, that's a hard one for some people, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's quite often it's forgiving yourself, and that's maybe the most difficult.
And that links into the enoughness, that links into that sort of understanding and that acceptance of the past as well, and the future and the present and the relationship that we have with it all, and realising that it's gone. The past it really has gone, and there's so many things that we can do in our lives that brings yesterday into the now, when it could just stay in yesterday.
Yeah, or and putting yesterday into our future as well. And
yeah,
it's just quite so often we're living in our experience of the past right now, even though it's not happening anymore. And that's tough.
Yeah, I remember I can't remember who said it. I went to a talk and they said, try and meet people every day for the first time. And it's, sorry to use this word again, a practice. But I tend to use it a lot in sometimes conflict, sometimes if I'm having some issues with somebody, like really meeting them for the first time. It's such a wonderful freeing of you hear things in a different way, you understand things in a different way, because you're so conditioned by what you think something is happening based on your experience,
Yeah, coming to something with nothing is tricky, because you all of this thinking still there, and it's sort of stacking up like baggage, and it's getting in the way. And yeah, as you said, it is a practice. And if you can give up all of your previous listening and then be fresh for something, maybe that's presence and actual listening.
Yeah, that's total presence, isn't it? That's Eckhart Tolle magic. Yeah, amazing. I feel like I've been on a journey.
Well,
I feel like I might look at my watch and it might be like 10:30 at night. Yeah, no, thank you for your honesty today. Thank you for just being here and really being present with me and exploring the answers as well. I feel that you've really gone to a place to answer them, which is I'm really grateful for. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was a privilege to be invited, and it's been beautiful. Thank you, Georgina.
There we are. There we have Grant. I've been so intrigued about sea swimming, cold water swimming, and there's so many people that are interested in it. And I felt I got a lot from that conversation, and I hope you did as well. I hope you learned a little bit more about the different options we have on how we can stay connected and how we can be true to ourselves and understand ourselves more, and where love lies for us. Until the next time, share the love. Bye.